What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Cosmic Blender. I'm Warren, and we have
Law.
Law. This way, every time we have Law with us. Most of you know Law. He's been on the podcast. I think every time we haven't had a podcast without Law yet, and he's got a video coming out on the channel later today about Disney's Wish. Be sure to check it out. It's a review. Plus, he went to the studio. It's gonna be cool. And today we're going to talk about the Marvels because I'm surprised everybody really wanted me to talk about the Marvels, which I understand because I feel like right now the movie has a lot of controversy surrounding it. Yesterday on Twitter, I asked people what they thought about it. I didn't do a poll because I genuinely wanted to hear people's thoughts about the movie. And I'm going to say 90 something percent were positive about the movie, but this is where I just want to tell everybody to calm down a little bit because I've been on YouTube and I've been seeing all of these videos like Marvel is dead, the Marvel sucks, this is the end of the MCU, and I'm just kind of like, it wasn't that bad. Like,
Sure, yeah.
I'm not saying it was good because I'm sorry, I can't. I think there are a lot of good and sometimes even great aspects to the film, and it's sad because it had a lot of potential. I feel it had a lot of potential. But I don't think it was like the worst thing ever that's dooming Marvel Studios and this is it for them. Like
Right.
I've seen, there are channels that I genuinely enjoy watching who do spit the truth a lot. And they're truthful in their reviews, but you know, I'm not going to mention any, especially because I like them. But but yeah, there's a lot of you can just find them all online. Like Marvel is dead, the MCU is dead, the MCU. You know what I mean? But right away, I thought there were some great parts of the movie. Overall, I just thought it was a mess. It lacked direction. It lacked good writing. But we're also going to break down that post-credit scene too. But Law, right away, what did you think about it?
I definitely all of what you said resonates with me. I think it's interesting because I had more fun in this movie than I did Quantumania.
Yeah, sure.
But do I think it's a better movie than Quantumania? That is a question I've yet to answer. I think I need to watch it maybe one more time to just like really develop better feelings about it. But I totally resonate with the fact that yes, there were some great parts that really work, but not within the context of the film that we have. Which was a little bit frustrating because it's like, it almost felt like there were just bits of story missing, bits of character development
So much of that.
missing.
So much of
Yeah.
that. And not to cut you off, but
No,
to add to what you're saying real quick before I forget, the difference for me for Quantumania and this movie is the villain. Kang makes it a better movie.
Sure.
Because I like, no offense to Zawe, actually in this review, no offense to any of the actors, because I actually think they did the best with what they were given. I don't think this is their fault at all. I think it's literally the direction of the film. It's the writing, right? I don't think it's them. I actually think Brie Larson was more relatable this time as Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
I think she did a lot
Way
better
more
stuff.
enjoyable on screen
Yeah,
this
yeah,
time around.
yeah, she really was. And Dana Paris and Iman Vellani
Iman stole the show.
She stole the show, and that's what literally even in these YouTube videos that are just crapping on the movie, everybody's like, "Yeah, Miss Marvel's awesome."
Well, that's the thing. You can't crap on her because she had the most character. She was the most character. You know what I mean? Everyone else was auxiliary almost. And I think if they had really focused on her path and like what she was going through, because there's just moments where I was just like, what? Why isn't there no consequence? Why are we not talking about what they all just saw? Why do I care about the relationship of Monica and Carol? You know what I mean?
That's the problem, is you don't.
That was what was missing. I think it could have used. I know it's like a breezy, 90 minutes, and it does feel really nice and it's easy to watch. But 20 more minutes of character development would have done some good for the film overall. Really especially the villain, and especially for Carol. See, I don't know if you agree with this, but this is kind of not necessarily spoiler territory, but this felt like a sequel to a Captain Marvel movie that we didn't get to see.
Yes.
Yes. because I'm like, I
Yeah.
want to see her get married. I want to see her like
Yeah.
destroying supreme intelligence, like all of that stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I
Yeah, it's like
wish
this
we,
should have been the third movie. There should have been a
yeah,
movie in between.
this could have been the Ragnarok, you know, like a little bit
Sure, sure.
lighthearted team up film.
Right.
Um,
Change of
but I,
pace. Right.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So those were my initial thoughts of the film. I think it's funny because like you mentioned like MCU or Marvel is dead. It's like, look, we're not
Calm
innocent.
down.
Well, yeah,
Calm
we're not innocent with those headlines either for
Of
like
course not.
videos in general.
No, of course not. Yeah,
But
yeah. And they
generally in our
work, they get
discussions,
clicks.
but
Yeah,
generally in our discussions, we don't
yeah.
say it's dead. You know, like we there's nuance to it, right?
Right.
That said, I think that's an overreaction. I think the movie was enjoyable, which is what a movie should be. But do I wish it was stronger in story and character? Absolutely. And
Yeah.
that's kind of how I feel about it overall.
Yeah, and oh man, here's the deal. Here are my thoughts on the movie. They're kind of like yours because I don't think it's definitely like in the bottom 10 of MCU movies. Like I'm, just gonna be honest there. It is. But it's really, really, really not as bad as all these doom headlines are making it out to be. And I understand what everybody's doing. They're getting clicks, and a lot of people are riding this wave, especially the people who hate the so-called MCU, right? I mean, I understand what's happening here, and it was a mess. And here's the deal: I didn't care about the villain at all
Mhm.
because they didn't give me a reason to. They
Yeah.
didn't. They didn't take any time for character development, and everything kind of felt cheap, like the knockoff. She was, what are they calling her? The dollar store brand of Ronan the Accuser. And I feel so bad that she's getting that title. I feel so bad that she's getting that
It's
title
horrible.
because it's
Yeah.
not her fault at all.
Mm-mm.
It's really not her fault at all. And it's like, oh yeah, that's the universal weapon. Like Carol Danvers just mentions a really
I
quick.
hated that line. I hated that line. Just like these throwaway lines where it's like, oh, that's what this does. Like the
Yeah.
exposition had no
Oh
nuance to it. It
no,
just was
it
like
was.
thrown in there.
Yeah, and then you get glimpses, like very, very small glimpses of what this movie could have been. Sometimes
Mhm.
when you get like really good chemistry between the three leads, right? And
Totally.
you're
Yeah.
like, wow. And then it's like the part with Miss Marvel, Kamala, where she's like, we have to save these people. But Captain Marvel's like, we can't. We got to go. We have to save the ones we can. I love, or I would have loved if they dove further into the fact that Kamala is actually meeting this idol that she looks up to, getting a glimpse of true superhero life, like having to
Mhm.
save a whole entire like planet and race and everything like that. And she realizes like, holy crap, this isn't actually what I thought it was. Like
Yeah.
people die, and
Mhm.
Captain Marvel isn't just this happy-go-lucky girl who just saves
Yeah.
everybody, like saves everybody all the time. Like she's an actual person with
Yeah.
flaws, and it's like there you could have went into that and it would have hit so hard.
I think that was exactly the move that should have been done
Yeah.
is Miss Marvel is now seeing that Carol or Captain Marvel is is not devoid of I mean people get hurt no matter what.
Yeah,
And it
yeah,
should have been like, oh, my hero couldn't save everyone. Is she really a hero? You know, like that is an
right,
interesting, especially for a new young hero on this on the
right,
scene. That
yeah.
would have been a really big impactful moment. But 20 seconds later, 2 minutes later, they're like
We have
jump roping
Flerkens beating
in a
everybody.
spaceship. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
and like,
um,
yeah. So those are my major complaints. But
yeah,
I have to keep coming back to the fact that like I was still having a good time. I was
yeah. I
laughing
laughed.
out loud.
I did, yeah.
And like you said, I really liked what Carol was in this. I even laughed at the weird, silly Nick Fury, even though he should be depressed as hell after Secret Invasion. But he was a joy to watch. Albeit a little confusing. Maybe he's a scroll. I
It's
don't
so
know.
conflicting because I'm like, first of all, you don't mention Secret Invasion at all.
Yeah.
You
And scrolls are
literally
here.
that's what I was gonna say. You literally have Fury and the Kree. How do you not mention it?
Mhm.
Whatever. I digress. I laughed at Fury's character, but I was so pissed the entire time because I was like, this isn't the Fury we just saw. And the
Yeah, right.
Fury we
Exactly.
just saw isn't the Fury that we've known over the course of, the Infinity Saga. So they're just I think Marvel entered a state where they were like, we want to treat each project like it's its own thing, and I'm like, that's good to an extent, but you have to keep continuity with characters.
Totally.
You can't just be like, we're gonna make him the goofiest character, blah blah blah. And in my mind, I'm like, why is Kamala's family there? Why is her family there? You would never take her family into space. Like you would never do that, right? Like why?
Yeah.
Why? To protect them from what? Nobody knows who they are, and you just got the 2 Kree that were there, right?
Yeah.
The switching of the powers was cool. I wish we would have got like the final fight was so quick.
It was.
And I wish we got a lot more of that because it was actually pretty cool what we saw.
I was gonna say actually the fight choreography in this movie is some of the better fight choreography in the MCU.
It really
with the
is.
power switching, with kind of utilizing like Kamala's kind of slippy nature. And Monica's powers, seeing them in like battle was really, really cool because the last time we saw her was just WandaVision. She's just like, phasing through things, throwing punches. There's a moment where she like phases through a guy and then punches him after coming out. That was sick. I remember being like, oh, my hopes were so high for the rest of the movie after that point. I also love when they kind of dampen Carol's powers a little bit so that she's more ground level with everyone else, even though she's super OP. Which makes the whole sun thing kind of contradictory.
Well, like sorry, before I forget, don't want to be rude, but I will forget because I saw this today. I saw something, and it was by a Captain Marvel account, and I never bash on people who like love Captain Marvel. I like her. I just think she needs more justice in writing with the movies.
Yeah,
and I like Brie Larson, but they were like talking about Thor and how he's like, oh, you have Thor, the god of thunder, who struggled to like hold the energy of the sun when creating Stormbreaker, right, in Infinity War. And then Carol just goes through the sun. I'm like, this is actually like they meant it as like a really cool thing. I'm like, but this is actually the problem.
Yeah.
Because here's the deal. Good stories don't just make these characters come out of nowhere who are invincible. We love like there's no relatability to that. Like Thor's struggle is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And we love to see the heroes overcome their struggles and rise above and get stronger through them. And then they're stronger at the end, right? They're not just invincible the entire time. So that's like a big writing problem that I think they actually had to deal with in this film. They're like, we made Captain Marvel way too strong. How do we nerf her? And it pissed me off because she's sitting there fighting Dar-Benn and sometimes losing. I'm like, in no freaking way is she less strong. It's, you know what I mean? It's like, even with that weapon,
the Negaban thing,
right. It's like, and then what pissed me off is like, okay, so Dar-Benn puts both of the bands on and dies, and then Miss Marvel's like, cool, no big deal, I can handle all this. I'm like, what is this inconsistency? Why did Dar-Benn die? Because she couldn't handle the power, but they weren't even concerned about Kamala.
I almost feel like it's like a write-off, like they hope that you watch Miss Marvel so that it's like, oh, because she's a mutant and her family's connected to the Noor realm, you know what I mean? But I will agree with you. It feels very cheap, I guess, for a lack of a better term. It feels cheap. And it happens so fast that you're like, wait, shouldn't she be also glowing and exploding or something,
I think what you said is unfortunately how I feel about a lot of what happens in this movie. Cheap, quick cop outs. Just it was messy. I think everybody, even in the really positive comments I got on my Twitter, everyone's like, it was a lot of fun, messy as hell, no plot, and it's like, it's like. You literally, at the end of the movie, you literally showed us what could have been done from the very beginning. And it's like, you know what I mean? And it's like, it makes no sense. So you took out the Supreme Intelligence and their sun went away, this incredibly highly advanced civilization.
Yeah.
One, how are they controlling the sun with their AI? Why is that a thing? That's not how, like,
the resources depleting. I like the idea behind it. And like the mission behind the villain, but I agree that it was so underwhelming, especially because in the first movie in Captain Marvel, she's like, "You tell them I'm coming." You know, she's like, she makes this big threat, and then we get this quick flashback scene of Carol standing there blowing everything up, and then
Yeah.
suddenly the Earth that they live on goes to shit. Like,
Why?
I wish,
Right.
yeah, I just needed more of that. You know what I mean? Now, I'm gonna transition us a little bit because we have to talk about it because
The
there's the
post
silly
credits.
moments.
Yeah.
Well, I want to talk about the silly scenes.
Oh.
People are like, "Oh, I hated the musical Planet. I hated the Flurkin scene." Those were two of the big highlights for me. As weird as they were, it's one of those things that are like, this doesn't belong in this movie though. This belonged in
So
like Love and
yeah.
Thunder. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I hated the singing scene. Hated it.
Did you?
Couldn't stand
Poor
it at
Park Seo
all.
Joon, man. They
I
just
love him so
did
much,
not
and I was
utilize him. Yeah.
I think that's what made me hate it even more. I was just like, "This is how
Mhm.
you're doing Park Seo Joon," and it's sad because
Sure.
this is probably his only movie in the MCU.
Mhm.
But I think that was a problem. Is the director was like, "This is going to be silly." I'm like, one of my issues I think I've had with the MCU recently is that it's actually been too silly.
Mhm.
If you look at the Infinity Saga, there's some silly stuff in there. You get like Ant-Man and stuff, but like there's a lot of meaning in Ant-Man too, like with his daughter and with Hope and everything and with Hank. Like there you care because it's serious. And I didn't care about what was happening in this movie because it was so silly. And then it was so I don't even care that it was silly, just the way it was written when they're like, they want you to care about the relationship between Monica and Carol, and I don't because
Yeah,
you didn't give me a reason to.
totally.
You know what
Yeah,
I cared about? I cared about how Miss Marvel saw Captain Marvel because that was set
totally.
up in Miss
Yes.
Marvel, right?
Yeah.
And I went with my mom because I was sick. I didn't get to go to the screening. So I went with my mom the day it came out, and she left and she was like, why were they switching? I was like, yeah. And she was like, okay, but why was the girl switching? I was
Because of
like, because
light-based powers.
right.
I
And
was
she
like,
was like,
"What?"
yeah. And she was like, and the girl in the white suit, Monica, what was her powers again? I was like, kind of
Mhm.
whatever they felt like having at the time. Like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
her
You
powers
know,
aren't that very well defined.
well, I interviewed Nia DaCosta on the
Okay.
carpet for,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
D23, and, we were talking about powers. I mentioned that to both her and Tiona, and I was like, Spectrum's power set, whatever name you wanna give her, because they didn't give her a name in this movie.
Photon, like whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, but I was saying, she's like, her power set is so nebulous, right? It's so grand. It's basically manipulation of light and matter. And she was just like, oh, we had to choose like a couple things so that it didn't seem like she was too powerful. But the fact that like a layman, goes into this movie and doesn't know what those couple things
Exactly.
are,
Exactly.
that's a big issue. And
It's bad writing.
and it's
I'm
rough.
sorry. Yeah.
And it sucks because like I wanted Captain Marvel to return to the theaters with a big win because I really hate how Brie Larson has been treated on the internet by the fandom. Like I personally feel for the person behind all that. Um, and I don't know. I just I wanted to like this more than I did. I don't hate it. I think that's something that we can continue to agree with is just like it's not bad, but it's not great, and I wanted it to be great.
I wanted it to
But
be great.
I did like it more than the first Captain Marvel, even though from a story perspective, I think Captain Marvel is stronger. If that makes sense. I don't know, something about this made it more enjoyable. Maybe it was the lighthearted tone, maybe
Yeah.
because, like, we hadn't seen Captain Marvel with that levity. Like,
Sure.
the Flurkin scene when she's like, "Here, kitty." I thought that was so adorable. I loved her scenes with Fury, Carol and Fury. I thought their chemistry was really wonderful.
Yeah.
Um,
A
I
lot of
just wish it all
chemistry.
made yeah, I just wish it made sense in context of, like, what's going on in the universe right now.
Yeah, and it doesn't. That's sad. And then just the lack of a villain, really. In all
Yeah.
honesty, like the lack of a villain. And if you think about it, the final scene wasn't even really about the villain. It was about like the multiverse tearing apart, which
No.
like
Which
Monica
wasn't
could have.
set up super great.
It
Yeah,
was
yeah.
like Monica, like the way they described it, and she could have like totally done it from our side of the universe, like based on how she did. But whatever. overall, we'll finish this and we'll talk about the post credit scene. So overall, like, yeah, it's definitely in like the lowest of the low for me. For movies. But I don't know if it's better than the first Captain Marvel. I will say this: these videos that I have watched, dogging on it, they do speak the truth when it comes to the first Captain Marvel film. Everybody thinks Captain Marvel is like really, really loved character. I think Marvel might have thought this too because it did $1 billion. But like, holy crap, that was the peak of the MCU, and you stuck it between Infinity War and Avengers Endgame, and basically told us you had to watch this film.
Yeah.
Right? It's like everybody saw it because they had to, and it was like, holy crap, Infinity War was amazing. We have to see this now. It's like you have to take that in consideration.
Totally.
And I think Marvel very, very, very much overestimated how much people like them. But I was hopeful for the movie because I thought it had a lot of potential, and you can see some of that potential in the movie, but overall, it's just poorly written. It's poorly written. It's underdeveloped story-wise, which is, I guess, just another way to say it's poorly written. Yeah, just from the villain to the giving us some time to actually know and care about some of these characters and their relationship with each other. Just it was rushed, it was quick, and I hated the singing. But the post-credit scene, they really pushed that post-credit scene with some promos they had.
Because they did.
There was one where they like left the X and they were basically telling us the X-Men are here, they're coming. And I'm like, ooh, like before the film even came out, I'm like, I know it's in the post-credit scene, and you're sitting there promoting like the X-Men are showing up. I was like, oh, Marvel knows this movie is not good. I was like, you know what I mean? And there's some people out there who genuinely love the movie. I'm really happy for those people.
Totally.
And I bet you if I watched this movie on its own, it wasn't connected to Marvel in any way, right? It was its own thing. I would have liked it a lot more, but I know it's connected to the MCU. And I know the characters before, Captain Marvel, their story development, everything is just, it's unfortunate. But going to that post-credit scene, a comic accurate Beast, I'm going to ignore the CGI. It was very rushed because it was
looked like an Insomniac game. Yeah,
it does. But
rushed. Yeah,
it was rushed because they had to put something in there to attract people to see the movie. Like, let's call it what it is. Let's call it what it is. And we're going into Deadpool where those Fox X-Men are coming, and it's really cool to see. And that's actually really cool because I'm assuming we're going to get half and half. I'm assuming we're going to get like their original outfits from the original movies they were in, but then upgraded outfits, maybe more comic accurate outfits, right?
Totally.
So, because we've seen Wolverine, right? We've already seen he's got the comic accurate, Wolverine skin. So in the post credits, she arrives into the universe. She closes the whatever you want to call it.
Multiverse hole,
right? She ends up stuck, and we'll call it the Fox X-Men universe because, as far as we know, that's that universe. It could be another universe that we haven't seen, in the Fox.
I would argue it might even be X-Men 97, the animated show.
Because live action.
Because it looks like Charles in Multiverse of Madness had the yellow chair, and then this Beast very much looks like the Hank McCoy a lot of us grew up with on in the cartoon. So I'm hoping it's kind of that. But you're right. It could just be like, oh no, this is the Fox universe. We just like revamped the designs a little bit because we didn't want to put Kelsey Grammer in prosthetics. You know what I mean? Like,
right, exactly. Well, and okay, ignoring the CGI. Ignoring the CGI. We're gonna talk about what it means. What it means is basically it's a prep for Deadpool 3 and Secret Wars. Right? We all know now. And they've even said Sean Levy even said, like, like, we're not ignoring the Fox X-Men universe, right? There's a lot that came before, and we already know cameos are coming in, right? Most of the original X-Men, I think, are coming back, like Cyclops,
Phoenix, or I guess Jean,
Famke, Halle Berry, James. They're coming back, which is awesome. And so, and what do we hear him say? Like, Professor X or Xavier wants an update or status report, something like
that.
Right. So we know he's there. So we know actually that's a point. We know it's not the 838 universe because he's dead in the 838 universe.
That's true.
So I would love actually for it to be the 97 universe since they're coming out with that show. Maybe they link those live action in Secret Wars. So basically what they're doing is they're showing us that, hey, now we are crossing over into, you know, the other universes, like kind of like not intentionally crossing over, which because that's the whole problem. That's the
Yeah,
whole Secret Wars deals, the incursions, like unintentional crossings of the universe. Because keep
totally.
in mind, in 838, those weren't universes crossing into each other. We had a character from our universe take a portal basically to another universe. This was literal incursion, like two universes were colliding, a portal between
Yeah,
the two. You could see into the other one, right? That's not
yeah,
how
yeah,
Strange was, right? Strange's
yeah,
body got taken to another one. This is like actual universes. So
yeah,
that's what it's
yeah.
prepping us for. It's prepping us for incursions. And the 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 interesting thing about it is, you know, again, I'll go back to my mom who was with me, and she's like, "Is that?" You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, you know, and I
totally.
had to explain the entire thing, and it's kind of just like, oh, like from with Hugh Jackman's Wolverine. I'm like, yeah, so like that's a
Yeah,
whole that didn't happen in the MCU from Iron Man. You know, that didn't exist in this same universe. I was like, and I'm like
totally.
explaining multiverse to her like I'm a freaking physicist here, you know? Like,
That's
yeah,
so
let me
funny.
explain theoretical physics to you real quick, Mom. And so I
You
had to
take a pen and you
explain
bend a paper and you poke. It's just
pretty much, right?
interstellar.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, but then she was like, "Oh, that's pretty cool." I'm like, "It is really cool."
yeah. Don't you wish it was explained better? Yeah,
Exactly. That's the whole
totally.
point. Is like, you know what I mean? But I think for us fans, we knew exactly what was happening. It was really cool to see.
Yeah,
So
but that's a big problem I have with just like the multiverse in general right now. Like Darben, yes, that is the villain of the Marvels, by the way, if you forgot her name, because I definitely did halfway through the movie.
it's also a
Um,
guy in the comics.
no, there you go. So, but Darben, I thought the whole vibe was gonna be she was this multiversal villain who was stealing artifacts through different universes, ripping holes in space time, because that is how it was
It was
marketed.
presented that
It
way.
was presented that way. And then when
And
I
then
found
and
out
then hold
it
on. Sorry
wasn't,
to yeah,
no,
yeah, yeah.
you're fine. Yeah, yeah.
No, no, no,
Go for
no.
it.
When you found out it wasn't. When you found out it wasn't.
When you found out it wasn't, then I was like, when is the multiverse stuff gonna happen? Because it was such a big part of the marketing. And
Right.
then it's all in the third act where it's just like, oh, there's a hole in space time. This is an incursion. I need
It's
to
not even the
close the
third
hole.
act. It's like in
The last
the
15 minutes, maybe.
it's in the last 90% of the like it's 10% of the movie, right?
Yeah. And then when you leave off on that post-credit scene, it doesn't feel finished. The movie doesn't feel finished at
It
that
doesn't
point.
even really feel like it was part of the movie in all honesty.
Yeah, yeah, totally. It's just like this
But
extra thing. Yeah,
going
I don't
back to
know.
the marketing, then they started marketing it like Darben was like finishing Thanos' work. And it's like,
Yeah, what was that
no,
about?
not related to that at all. Like
Did
at
not love
all.
the way they marketed the film, unfortunately. Yeah,
And
did not love it.
it's sad because it's basically the studio going like, "Oh my gosh, this movie's not very good.
Which
How do
sucks because
how do
I
we
think
be
I
able to
think
see
if
it?"
they leaned into what it was, people would have
Yeah,
watched it for what it was. It's like
totally.
a fun jaunt through space and time with three
Yeah.
characters that you know. You know what I mean? Like, and I do love the team up aspect. I
Yeah, it's
did
really
like
cool.
I did like some of the chemistry. The power switching
Yeah,
was interesting.
it was.
Why pull endgame clips and Thanos clips and talk multiverse if it's not really that's not what the bulk or
It
the meat of the movie was. The
no, it
meat
was
of the movie should have been their interpersonal relationships. Like
yeah.
not
It was
only the
kinda
power
clickbait in all
switching.
honesty.
Yeah. Damn,
To be
taking a
honest.
page from YouTube. That's crazy.
But it should have been about the power switch and all that, you know, and I always
Yeah.
feel like I picture in my head, it's like you have all the events of the MCU going on, and then it's almost like a comic book, and then you go to a page that says, "Meanwhile,"
Yeah,
like
yeah,
this,
yeah.
you know what I mean? It could have been a
Yeah.
separate story on its own,
Totally,
which
totally.
it was. And also another thing is like I feel like not everything in the MCU has to be like universal threat.
No. No. In fact, I love the first Ant-Man because it's not. You know
Right.
what I
Yeah.
mean? It's
Yeah.
so
Like
contained in its own thing, and like I love that about MCU movies when they can do that.
because it
The
gets
this
yeah.
phase you haven't been able to do that. This was actually a great opportunity to do so, but then they
Yeah.
were like trying to pull in from all the things that you remember, and I don't know.
It
As
gets
a cat,
boring and all honesty.
yeah, I wonder how casual fans feel about, the story because it's just all this setup of like something's coming.
Right.
Hey, thanks for watching this movie. something's coming soon.
Yeah.
You know
The
what I
good
mean? And
yeah.
it's
The
just
good news is I think Marvel is fixing things right now.
yeah, that definitely seems to be what is happening right now. Yeah.
I've heard that they're actually consulting now with Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely.
Oh.
Yeah, so really great writers who have done a lot of great work for the MCU. So and there's been a lot of articles that basically from like Variety and Hollywood Reporter, Deadline. They're basically like, yeah, Marvel knows, and they're trying to fix it right now. And the fact that they made all these delays is them going, you know what? We're not putting these movies out because they're not good. We need more time. And the only movie still coming out next year is Deadpool 3 because Ryan Reynolds has taken like 6 years to write this thing, so you know it's going to be good.
Sure, yeah.
So the good news is Marvel, I think, is working on it, and I did a video. Not yesterday, day before, maybe yesterday, maybe the day before, depending on when you watch this. Could be a week ago. But that was like I was talking about. I was like, if Marvel fixes one problem, they pretty much fix everything else, and that's the writing. Like Loki season 2 was great because they finished the writing before they filmed.
Yeah.
Same thing with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. They finished the entire thing before they filmed. She-Hulk, they were writing it kind of as they went along because they realized some things sucked and needed changing, and they had already filmed, so they had to redo some stuff and add more CGI, and which made the CGI bad because they didn't have enough time to finish it. Like writing is the problem. We need good stories. We need to care about characters and their stories, which I didn't care about like in this movie at all, which was the problem. But overall, it's not the end of the MCU. It's really not as bad as everybody really.
It feels like a side adventure. It's like a side quest during all this this multiversal stuff. It's definitely not the worst thing I've ever watched. And I think that's reflected in kind of like, not that I use Rotten Tomatoes as like a great, you know what I mean? Like it's not a great way of judging a movie, but critics hated this movie. Audiences are seeming to really enjoy it, like general audiences. I'm cool with that, like that's what a movie should do. You should go in, escape for a little bit, and enjoy yourself. If you achieve that with this movie, great. But like you and I, we have to we critique things every now and then. We're fans, but we're also reporting on this stuff, and we need to. It's our job to almost pick out flaws in certain things. But at the end of the day, not the worst thing in the world. I think all the reactions that we're saying that just need to reel it in a little bit. But at the same time, we've had a little bit more time to kind of create the nuance of what we thought of the movie, because it's a little a week ago now. Was that when it came out? And we've seen the ticket sales kind of perk up since the word of mouth. So it's like, it's not going to be $1 billion movie, not like the first Captain Marvel. But
no, I actually heard that it's going to take like a 70% drop.
Yeah.
But yeah, let us know what you thought about it. I mean, I think it's what you said, Law. It was for those people who just want to go see a movie and have a good time, and you don't take it too seriously. It's probably pretty good.
And at the end of the day, it's still Marvel action. It's still MCU characters, and I will keep saying this. The fight scenes are great. I think they're really good.
Should have got more of them. Yeah, should have got more of them. There's just a lot of continuity errors with this movie and bad writing. Unfortunately, could have been great, but it is what it is. Go ahead and let us know what you think about it down below in the comments, and also look up for Law's video on Wish. New movie coming out. It's supposed to be a classic, a new modern classic.
Spoiler alert for the video. I really enjoyed it.
yeah. So look out for that. That'll come out today as well. And let us know what you thought about the Marvels. Give us your honest thoughts. Pure, honest thoughts, whether good or bad. We'll catch you guys in the next video. Woof woof.